Let's get him out here. Our guest tonight grew up on a farm in the Ohio Valley, which is the steel mill and fracking part of Appalachia. He farmed produce and ran a stump grinding business for 7 years, then was the rural outreach coordinator for the Elizabeth Warren campaign and has just moved back to the Ohio Valley to start the Holler. The Holler's most recent video on the wealth gap has more than 9 million views across all social media and has earned 2 national media stories this week, everybody. Please welcome to the show, John Russell. What's up, John?
Howdy, boys. How are we doing?
Doing good, man.
Bud.
Good to see you. So I want
Good to meet
to.
you. I saw your video a couple of days ago before I knew you were friends with Matt, and it was awesome, man. I dug it. Congratulations
So
on the virality.
on that note, because I don't want to subject you to just sitting here and watching yourself, because I know I don't like that. So instead, I'm gonna request people that haven't seen the video. Can you just sort of walk us through what you cover in said video? Because it is illuminating and people do need to see it.
Yeah, and I got to say, I'm just glad to have gone viral in the same week that teenagers are pranking the the school boards. But the video was about something that hit a nerve with people, and it's understandable. It just all I did was, and I actually have the graph here, but I graphed out with graph paper like it's the 1970s the relative wealth gap. And all the video does is make the point that a couple of hundred people have all of our money.
Right.
And when we talk about the 1% and the 99%, it's kind of easy to get mixed up and not really realize how much money we're talking about here. But when you put it into relative scale, it becomes clear that all of us are in the same boat. The working class people with 3-car garages and Pelotons, we have way more in common with each other than with the people who have the true wealth, and we ought to get together, stop fighting with each other, and do something about it.
Right, because you say it in the video. You're like, and I think this is true. A lot of times when people start talking about taxing the rich, a lot of people, as you put it, who have a Peloton and a 3-car garage, they hear that and they think, you're going to tax me more? Why are you taxing me more? But really, that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about the uber wealth, the so wealthy, it's literally almost impossible for our brains to wrap themselves around how wealthy these people are. We're talking about taxing them more.
Let's talk about that relative gap. I love this quote that's out there. Just to keep everything straight, we're talking about big numbers. If seconds were dollars, 1 million seconds would be 12 days. 1 billion seconds would be 32 years.
Yeah.
We have one person with $190 billion. And if he continues on this path, if we continue to choose that system that made him that rich, we'll have trillionaires. And 1 trillion seconds is 32,000 years. That's the scale of wealth we're talking here. And let me close on this. We only have 600 billionaires. And those people are commanding $4.2 trillion of wealth. It's a big deal.
My takeaway is always like, there are reasons to take away a ton of Jeff Bezos' money, even if we just lit it on fire, because he's too powerful. Like we did the American Revolution, so we wouldn't have any kings, so we'd all have kind of an equal say over our political future and reality. And you have one guy who Jeff Bezos literally has his own foreign policy. His rivals are not other Walmart or other businesses. His rivals are Mohammed bin Salman, right? It's like he's literally in a foreign like him and bin Salman had a falling out when bin Salman killed Khashoggi and whatever and pulled Bezos. Like they're like public enemies number one. Like when Bezos's dick pics got hacked and his marriage got ruined, that was tracked back to bad actors hired by Saudi intelligence, right? So like this is fuckery going on an international scale just because Jeff Bezos is a king of his own empire, essentially. And all these people can operate this way. And there's there's a reason for the survival of democracy to take away a lot of their money, even if we didn't use it to fund schools and roads. But by the way, schools and roads could use the funding, right?
Big time.
So that's what my brain comes back to about this is like just how you talk about the law of large numbers and how human brains aren't built to conceive of large numbers because it's not something we ever had to do throughout all of human history. There just weren't big numbers, right? So it's like it's kicked us in the dick with COVID, and also it's like made wealth inconceivable to most people. And I think your video resonated because here's a chart that shows that Kanye is worth closer to zero than he is Jeff Bezos.
That's one of my favorite statistics. All of these other famous billionaires you can think of, Michael Bloomberg, Warren Buffett, depending on the day and how the stock market is doing, a lot of them are closer to having $0 than to having Jeff Bezos levels of wealth. And Mark, you made a great point. This has been true forever. Read it in any history of democracies. Concentrated wealth and democracy do not go together, because when you get that level of concentration, people start to want to capture government and make the rules for themselves. Sounds familiar. They want to capture media and tell the story about themselves that puts their concentrated wealth in the best light. We have billionaires that are buying up the means of information. We've got billionaires, hiring armies of lobbyists to run the halls of Congress like they own the place when it's actually ours. So those levels of wealth are not actually good for democracy. But I want to make another point here too, because it can seem like we're all ganging up on Jeff Bezos, right? And a lot of people use Amazon. I do, and a lot of people like that service. But I think it's really worth it to make the point that nobody earns $1 billion.
Right.
We have a system that funnels the value that's created by working class people. Working class people punch into work and they just make money for freak nerds all day long. All of the value created by you going to work and do whatever you do, because of the system that has been set up by billionaires, because they've captured our government, it siphons that value you're creating and it puts it into the hands of people who didn't really earn that value. If Jeff Bezos sleeps all day, he's still going to get richer and richer and richer, because this system, and this is what I wanted to make, Jeff Bezos is not inherently a bad person. He's the winner of a bad system that funnels all the value that we create to a handful of people, 600 to be specific.
Yeah. Well, it also, like, another thing about that's always annoyed me is, like, you have the people, on the right politically who hate welfare in all forms. Get up off your lazy ass and work for it. Why should I pay for for you to live a life of luxury or whatever? But then you have Bezos and the Walton family and whatnot, who so many of their employees, they don't pay them enough to actually live, so they end up getting benefits that are paid for by the rest of us. So in effect, Bezos and the Waltons are on food stamps, or they're on welfare, effectively corporate welfare. And people
on the front end and the back end, because Jeff Bezos is a government contractor. A lot of his money comes from the government just giving him money. They like not only just like that Amazon Web Services hosts, the CIA and the State Department and all that shit, every government agency's like servers, but Jeff Bezos, like Amazon, relies on the post office to do a lot of last mile carrying for him, because he doesn't have the infrastructure to do it, and they do it out on the cheap. So like he's getting it coming and going.
Right. And no one cares about that. Like corporate welfare, it doesn't matter to people. They worry about the, mythical welfare queens or whatever instead for some reason. And I don't know what you think about that, John, why you think that is, or
I think there's a good reason behind it. Look, what would happen if the only thing that people could think about was how all of their labor gets funneled up through a system that was designed and paid for by billionaires who are taking all of the money that people are really working for? People be mad. Wealth concentration is at a more intense distribution now than it was in the French Revolution. And the last time that happened, there was violence, right? Yeah. So people get angry about that. So to keep people from thinking about just how badly we're getting worked over, they have to invent media networks that give us stuff to fight about how people are living. The guy next to you, which maybe works at the same place that you do, is getting something for free, paid for by your tax dollars. They want, this is classic divide and conquer, and it is absolutely necessary to divide ordinary working class people when you have wealth concentration like this, because if we weren't divided, we might get together and do something crazy like a wealth tax. All right. And that's something I would love to talk about, because therein lies a solution to unite folks and put a lot of this money to work for us. After all, it is our money.
Well, I mean, go ahead. Let's talk about it.
May I have the floor?
Yes, you may.
Yeah.
Please
okay.
do.
Okay. Okay, so here's what I like to start off with. You know, when you say wealth tax, people respect business folks, and they should. They should respect small business folks. But really, everything we're talking about here is beneficial to workers. It's beneficial to small business. We want more of those things. But let's talk about a wealth tax. You're probably already paying one. I work for the Warren campaign as one of our policies, a point she'd always make. If you own a home, you are paying a wealth tax because the property tax on the value of your home is a tax on your net worth. We can apply the same concept to all of the assets of billionaires, and a tiny wealth tax that wouldn't make a dent. In fact, it wouldn't even stop the runaway growth of billionaires, could raise trillions of dollars for us over a 10-year period. And let me just end this with a couple of specifics. There's plenty of plans out there. This was the Warren plan. But if you take a 2% tax on everything over $50 million, so you pay no tax up until $50 million. Everything past that, 2 pennies comes out of the dollar.
Yeah.
And if you're past $1 billion, 6 pennies comes out of it. Do you know how many people would pay that tax? It's 75,000. A little more than that, 75,000 households, which is a small city, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, this is hitting a tiny amount of people, and just that would raise nearly $4 trillion over 10 years. That would end the conversation of how we pay for it.
That's another thing, right? Is that people think they hear like raising taxes on they don't realize that you pay the same amount on everything up till the higher tax bracket. So like you pay the same amount on everything up to $2 million or whatever, and then over $2 million, then it's a higher tax bracket. But people think that if they make a certain amount of money and you raise taxes, they're going to have to pay more taxes on all of that, when that's not really how it works. There's just so much misinformation or misunderstanding about how all of this shit works amongst regular people, you know.
I never really knew many rich people until the last few years, but then like, you know, working in Hollywood and your friends start having successful careers and you learn a few things about money, right? For example, the way working class people think about money, we do historically, is like money is a tangible thing you get in exchange for tangible things. You trade chunks of your life in terms of time away from your kids or your family, or literally if you work a blue collar job where your back hurts or you lose a piece of your body in a machine, you're literally trading pieces of your body to get money that you exchange for goods and services, right? But if you were to tell a rich person that their income was connected to how hard they work in any way, they'd laugh in your fucking face.
Yeah.
There's no connection there. It's manufactured value created on paper. But we think money equals hard work, so we don't want to take away the dividends of people's hard work. But Jeff Bezos did not work 190,000 million times harder than the janitor at an Amazon warehouse. It just doesn't work that way. And so go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Oh, I was going to say, listen, in the microcosm of my life, I can tell you that, like, because I've been up and down the income ladder a few times because I'm an idiot in a weird career field. But like all my easiest jobs were the highest paying. Like the only blue collar job I ever got to take a nap at was working construction. We're waiting on a load of stone. I'd curl up in a pile of dirt under a tree, right? But but in an office job, there's a couch. You can go fucking take a nap. You know, it's so weird.
Well, it's also just the whole thing of like you know, it's been pointed out many times before, but it's like it costs money to not have any money, and you make money by having money. Like if you just have money, you make more money. If you don't have money, that's expensive. It costs money, late fees, all that shit, versus interest rates and whatever. So it's like, it's very much an exponential scale, you know, as you go up, like it doesn't get harder. It absolutely does not get, you don't have to work harder to make like that much more money. You know, you have to work hard to survive at a certain level, but once you break through and start making enough money, it's not proportional to how hard you work, how much more money you make. And
yeah, one of the first videos we did that got any traction was about this unearned wealth, is what I call it, because that's what it is. It's wealth without work, and it starts at an astoundingly low level. I mean, I was a blue collar person for a good number of years, running a stump grinder, right? I would come home looking like a coal miner. One of the most shocking things is when I sold the stump grinder and got the money from that, I just stuck it in an index fund, and then magically it started appreciating in value with me grinding not a single stump. But
Right.
to really put a fine point on this, the S&P 500, the collection of the 500 largest stocks, if you put, let's say, $1 million into that index fund, over the long run, through Great Depressions and world wars and COVID, the market goes up on average about 10% a year. In other words, on $1 million, which sounds like a lot, but again, on that relative scale, is not very much compared to the rich. That's $100,000 every year for no work, and then it compounds on itself. So you scale that up to $190 billion, and pretty soon you see that this system is just a black hole of money compounding upon itself with nobody doing anything about it. But what we could do is tax it and put it into public assets so we can actually have nice shit. And the last thing I want to close on with this, all that stuff we just talked about, the super rich, and your audience we're smart people here. We probably know this, but it's worth saying. The super rich pay the lowest share of their wealth in taxes. In fact, in 2019, the top 1% of the 1% paid about 3.5% of their net worth in taxes. And for the bottom 99%, the same number was over 7%. So the super rich are paying less than half of what you're paying in taxes, federal, state, and local, as a share of your wealth. And if they just paid the same, we would have a completely different government and not have to worry about this pay for question at all, and we could invest it in people.
I don't know, man. It sounds like if we institute your policy, then Jeff Bezos is going to be eating soup and asking me to help him move. I don't know.
I'd be living in that. It's a quality soup, maybe from Whole Foods. I don't know.
Yeah,
Hey, John, if you work that hard to get to the point he's at, would you want people taking money out of your pocket? Is that what you would want? It's not fair. When we all work to get to that place one day, we don't want people taking money out of our pockets. God damn it, because we'll all be Jeff Bezos one day.
If I get there, on the insanely low odds, I might just buy up all the newspapers and invent a story about myself and maybe capture the government and protect all that wealth I didn't earn.
I'm definitely going to the moon. I'll tell you that much.
Dick-shaped rocket, you might want to avoid that.
Dick-shaped rocket for sure. The biggest dick-shaped rocket you've ever seen in your life. All right, John, thank you. Hey, listen, so before we go, I want to give you an opportunity to let people know how they can follow your stuff and keep track with everything you're doing and whatnot.
Well, hey, thanks. We're a big fan of you guys. I'm so glad to be on. I see these audience comments, and you guys are the best. If you want to follow me, head over to @HeyJohnRussell, HeyJohnRussell across all social media. That's where you get the TikToks. And if you want to support progressive media from Appalachia, head over to the Holler, TheHoller.co. Subscribe and support these videos. Thank you.
Right on. Well, thank you, John. We appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you, John Russell, for being with us. One more time, wellreadcomedy.com for tickets for the live show, patreon.com/Trae Crowder if you want to do the Patreon thing. I appreciate you either way. Thank you all very much for being here. I'm Trae, and that's Mark, and we'll be back next week with more Skews.